Does anybody write in cursive? Like, actually, I don't know almost anyone that writes in cursive anymore, and most people who, like, learn cursive, they mostly just forget about it. Honestly, a lot of people probably think it's weird if you're writing in cursive just because. It's it's really interesting, and I was thinking about this lately because I had been looking through my closet, and I had actually found a old cursive writing practice book. I might put up a picture or something. Just a little clip here. This is the book that I got. I wasn't even a teenager yet, as it's supposed to be, like it says on the title, when I received this book, because I don't know, I just got it earlier. So, yeah, this is the kind of stuff that I mean when I say that we did all this. And yeah, when I was younger, my grandparents, like, were always stressing me to learn cursive. They really wanted me to learn cursive, and honestly, I don't really write in cursive a lot. I only actually use it for my signature, which I'll get to in a bit. But I always thought it was kind of weird when I was younger, like, nobody really writes in cursive. A lot of people think cursive is basically useless, and honestly, depending on how you look at it, it might be. Because, like, people started writing in cursive because of, like, limitations and stuff. At first they had to save ink and stuff when people were writing stuff, and it was just easier to have all the words flow and not have to pick up your pen all the time, so you would save ink. But now that's not really an issue or anything. It's just kind of, cursive is just kind of a fancy thing. And honestly, schools really only teach cursive when you're, like, really young. I remember it was about 2nd or 3rd grade that I had started learning cursive. So you learn cursive pretty early in the country that I live in. They kind of, like, at least in my school, they kind of, like, reviewed it and stuff, and they made us do those stupid, like, things like in that book where you just write the same letter over and over again. And eventually you start writing a couple sentences, but it's not really that heavily enforced, if that makes sense. For me, it was like 30 minutes of cursive practice. I don't even know if it was 30 minutes. It was something like that. It was basically insignificant, and it was only for, I don't know, not even half of the year. It was like only a small part of the year. And I didn't forget how to write in cursive, mostly because of my grandparents that were always talking about, like, me having to write in cursive. But because I know how to read it for sure, but I don't really write it well because I haven't actually practiced in so long, since it's not actually necessary to use it for me right now. So I was actually just curious about who actually writes in cursive. I had asked some friends, and none of them write in cursive. The only time they write in cursive is for their signatures. And mostly because a lot of these people are, like, a couple of friends that I asked are, like, artists, so they do, sign their art and stuff, and they might want it to be fancy or stylish. But also because, generally it's more formal to write it in cursive, a signature and stuff. And that's just kind of how it's expected, but you don't really use cursive for much else. I think it's because a lot of times people will just not write in cursive to make sure the other person can understand. I feel like for the people that do know cursive, they end up doing that. I know, like, for my grandparents and stuff, they do write in cursive, but they just end up writing in print letters because everyone understands it. And, obviously, I don't remember learning cursive, and while I can read it, a lot of people can't read it, so it just ends up being easier to communicate. Well, this is just a bit of a rant. It's just something I found interesting, and I just asked around some people. So this also kind of, sometimes I notice that this kind of happens to other things where stuff becomes a little more obscure I wouldn't say cursive is necessarily obscure yet, just because of like signatures and stuff. And there are some situations where you have to write in cursive. But yeah, that's just basically my thoughts. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.